So there I were, no ship, no crew, and nary a scrap of me dignity left to be seen. All I had to me name were a rowboat and an overabundance of accursed treasure chests. But how were it that I got to this point, I hear you ask? Well, why don't you sit on back and let your old captain spin ye a yarn? Now, I suppose in a roundabout manner of speaking, it could be viewed from certain perspectives as being somewhat potentially, in part, me own fault. I mean, after all, I were the one who went to the pirate lord and asked him for a proper challenge for a sailor of me own caliber. But I still don't see how what happened next were my doing. After all, he were the one what gave me a voyage for accursed treasure. It'd be one thing when you do something to pin a target on your back and someone comes to try and sink you. Them risks come with the territory. It'd be something else entirely when the very loot itself you're meant to be hauling tries to fight back against ye. That be falling into a category I like to call utter cracking shit. But I weren't thinking of that though. No, me mind were far too occupied with the thoughts of how much gold I were to be making. Especially if I were to put up the emissary flag of the gold hoarders. It were a foolhardy thing, aye. But I figured it'd be worth any risks what may be coming as a result. So, not bothering to truly consider the implications of the task ahead, I took the legendary wayfinder what were given to me and followed its heading to the Isle of Last Words. I took a moment to do a wee bit of pest control before setting foot on them sands and following the wayfinder to where a chest of 1,000 grogs were buried. It were easily the most innocuous of them accursed treasures. If I got me a few more of them, well, I'd be having a nice, smooth voyage. But as it turns out, that weren't to be the case. The next island I were being directed towards were the Sunken Grove, where I'd find something most unfortunate waiting for me. I followed that wayfinder roundabout halfway up that hill, putting shovel to dirt once the needle were a-twitching. And much to me dismay, I unearthed a chest of sorrows. Now, for them's of ye what might be uninitiated to these waters, this chest be something of an inconvenience this early in a voyage. Any second, the blubbering baby bucks could start a-crying, flooding the hull of any vessel what be carrying the likes of it. And with a grade 5 Reaper emissary prowling around the southernmost parts of the sea, well, I'm sure ye can imagine it had me a tad bit on edge to be hauling around the chest of never-ending ballast. Lucky enough for me, it only began its weeping as we approached the next island, meaning I could, relocate it to the shore for a short spell. Unlucky for me, however, were the next chest I were to dig up, a chest of rage. I'd need to be handling it carefully now. Twouldn't do to have it burst into an inferno there in me hand. Nor would it be ideal for it to be going off aboard me ship. At least before I were able to pull off me wee little trick. You see, a thin layer of water in the hull be all it takes to protect yourself from a chest of rage. just settle atop the barrel, and them explosions be as harmless as the waves gently rocking you to sleep. Things were looking up for me at this point, by which I mean I found a rowboat, the Reapers weren't after me, and I'd been able to stay well on top of the Crybaby Crate's ceaseless flow of tears. Plus, by dropping the rowboat off the back of the ship while I went ashore, I'd have a quick and easy way to ensure that sorrowful box don't be filling up me ship when I'd be searching for more loot. Even if that loot be another chest of sorrows, it wouldn't be beyond me to simply cut the rowboat loose if the crying gets to be too much to bear. But even with 2 chests of sorrow aboard, my primary concern weren't with them, but with where I'd be going next. Old Faithful Isle. Truth be told, I'd have avoided the place completely were it not for the fact that this were the last dig spot for this voyage. But seeing as it were, well, I simply had to power through it and get that last bit of treasure. Another chest of sorrows. Great. Perhaps it were that disappointment in what I got what led me to make the mistakes I made next. Or mayhaps it were the simple fact that my emissary flag weren't yet grade 5. Whatever be the case, it were apparently compelling enough for me to try and go double or nothing with fate. Grabbing a bundle of them voyages from the shipwright and... Oh, I see why it were my fault now. Alright. Anyhow, that first Reaper were performing a Fort of the Damned ritual, and the second ship raised at a cursed flag over at Port Merrick. So, with any luck, them two would keep one another occupied long enough for me to be going about my business in relative peace. Now, I won't lie to you. I were feeling a touch of that deja vu as I were pointed to the Isle of Last Words again, which were compounded by having to dig up another chest of sorrows. So, needless to say, I were doing my best to make quick to the next island. Though I did notice something a tad peculiar about this latest chest partway to me next stop. Its cries were more feminine than I were used to. I'd have thought me mind were playing tricks on me if the damn thing would shut up long enough for me to doubt me senses about it. But no, for as long as I had it, it never stopped crying. Which must have meant this weren't no normal chest of sorrow. It were a chest of boundless sorrow, which were far worse. Needless to say, when I reached Shipwreck Bay, it were dropped off the back with the rest of the crying chests before I even thought of going ashore. Sadly, though, it didn't seem to help much. I just finished unearthing another chest of rage when I heard the cannon fire. I saw the trail of smoke as I carried me loot as fast as me legs could take me. In the haste to get to the dig spot, I'd failed to notice a cannon emplacement. And by the time I'd reached the fumbled plunder, it were too late. She'd been sunk by a skeleton cannoneer. It were an unfortunate setback, sure enough. But a setback were all that it were. Even without me emissary flag, I were still determined to gather me treasure. Even without me ship, I'd complete the voyage. I loaded up everything I could onto me rowboat. And that, me hearties, be how I got to this point. Now you best stop crying, before I turn this rowboat around, savvy? I hate all of ye. Now, the slight madness what made me talk to me treasure chest aside, rowing like that were honestly a surprisingly relaxing experience. Just a man, the ocean, and a collection of highly volatile treasure. A collection, mind ye, what only grew with each island I hit. I weren't exactly feeling on top of the world, no, but I certainly weren't quite so put out as most other pirates would be with the absence of their ship. So, as you would expect, it were only a matter of time before the natural order of things came in to fix that, if you will. Swarmed by phantoms, an ignoble end to a noble tale. Once I'd returned from the ferry, I saw where me ship had been placed by the merfolk what salvaged it, and me heart sank. It were so far away, there were no chance the loot wouldn't be spirited away by the time I returned. So, I did what any sensible pirate would do. I went to double check. God damn, what do you think I am? Some sort of idiot? That's where a lot of gold I'd left behind there. And it's a damn good thing I did too. It had drifted off from the shore a bit perhaps, but there were me rowboat all the same. Just as I left it, loaded to the gunwales with booty. Once I'd added the chest of rage from this island, I were almost done with this nonsense voyage. Just one more stop at Old Faithful for one last chest of rage, and I were in the clear. I might not have had me gold heart or emissary, but I'm sure this voyage still got me absolutely swimming in gold. I took me time selling all the loot to the sovereigns, then ran back to me ship, checking through the captain's log, and... oh, what a fat load of cracking shit!